afternoon, beautiful ladies. Okay, I know it's cold, but I'd like to once again say, good afternoon, beautiful ladies. Okay. I must state that each and every one of you in this room look absolutely amazing. And in true female form, everyone has added a touch of color, a touch of softness, a touch of glamour, coupled with a touch of strength and courage that all we women represent. By way of introduction, my name is Yanda Nyanda. I'm a senior associate at M&S Attorneys, and I've been given this thrilling task of directing the program for the day. I must say, I am honored. I'm honored to be directing a program with discussions of such significance, discussions that are necessary, discussions that should be held more frequently, and most importantly, discussions that are mapped out and organized and arranged by women, for women. Before we start with the discussions, I'd like Ms. Feziwe Pungula to open our program with a prayer. Feziwe, please come on stage. Feziwe is a director at M&S Attorneys. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good day, everyone. Can you please close our eyes? Egameni likayise nelendodana nelikamoya engcwele. Nkulunkulu engcwele siyabonga ukuphila, sibonga umusa wakho, sibonga ukuthola leli thuba namhlanje. Abanye bayagula, abanye bafisa lolu suku. Siyabonga Nkosi ukuthi usiphe namhlanje. Siphambi kwakho namhlanje sinale function esinayo, just to share ideas as females, our struggles esinawo, the challenges and the good things esinazo that we have experienced in the legal fraternity. Siyacela ke uNkulunkulu engcwele ukuthi uthele umusa wakho phezu kwethu sonke, ukuthi masiphuma kulamhlanje siphume sifunde something from each other. Ngicela ube nathi ke in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer, Ms. Pungula. Okay, now that our program has officially begun, I'd like to firstly start with a few house rules. The restrooms are out of the door to the left. That's where the ladies are. And then I just want to inform all the guests that there's a bit of a step as you leave the door. And please can we all just take care of that step. And then, ladies, I'd like to ask that we all keep noise levels down during the respective discussions, and that we give each and every panelist the respect that they deserve. This request is particularly important because we have online guests who are streaming and are joining us on numerous M&S platforms and who deserve, albeit not being physically present, to enjoy and be a part of these discussions without disturbance. In that regard, I would firstly like to acknowledge all our online guests, particularly the founders of M&S, Mr. Ndlovu, Mr. Sirumedi, who deemed it prudent and were in support of and committed to the objectives of this event. These discussions are to create a dialogue by women and for women, which dialogue is aimed at, amongst others, addressing the double oppression we encounter, not only because of our gender, but because of our race. Addressing the difficulties of balancing our roles as mothers, wives, daughters, with the grueling demands of our careers. Aimed at asking ourselves how far we've come and where to from here. Most importantly, this event is aimed at celebrating the advancement and progression of Black women in the legal fraternity and in business, and for learning from women who, despite these challenges, have continued to rise above it all. Ladies, it is important to note that this event is not aimed at being a somber event, which just addresses challenge after challenge after challenge that we as women face in the legal fraternity and in business. Whilst it is important to recognize these barriers that prevent women from progressing and to recognize the challenges that we face daily, we must identify tangible solutions to help promote change in an action-orientated and collaborative manner. M&S would then like to give a warm welcome to all our panelists. Advocate Kollega Galega, the Deputy Public Protector, who has tendered her apology but will be joining us live and will be joining the discussions virtually. Ms. Gloria Sirobe, founder of Withhold, Advocate Matlapi, SC, from Dumanokwe Group, Ms. Kathleen Dlepu, founder of Mulifi Dlepu Incorporated, and our very own Moving to the floor, ladies, we'd like to acknowledge all the female leaders of state-owned institutions and business. We would like to welcome and acknowledge all women who oversee legal departments of various businesses and state-owned institutions, all businesswomen, female advocates, female attorneys, and women who, on an ordinary day, are M&S clients, but today are wearing a different hat. A hat that says we are all women facing similar challenges, albeit in different working environments, and can learn and draw from each other's journeys. Welcome to you all. Ladies, we'd like to take this moment to acknowledge a special lady seated on the floor. Her journey began at M&S Attorneys when M&S was founded in 2002 as a candidate attorney. She was the first candidate attorney ever that worked for M&S Attorneys. She is now the founder and managing director of Puti Manamela Inc. and continues to rise in her journey as a legal professional. Ms. Puti, your journey and story fills us as women at M&S with pride and, most importantly, a drive to persevere. Thank you, Ms. Puti. Without any further ado, ladies, and before I take over the role of facilitator, I would like to welcome on stage Ms. Ipileng Silele, who has an extensive bio. I wish I could go through her entire bio, but I would not, even if I tried to sum it up in 1 hour. Ms. Silele is a qualified international strategist and an entrepreneur. She is the Vice President of the Africa Southeast Asia Chamber of Commerce, based in Singapore. She is the Vice President of African Women in Maritime and the Chairperson of Women in Maritime in South Africa. Ms. Silele serves on the Siemens Energy SA, Matlago Energy Infrastructure, and Santanga FinTech boards. Ms. Silele was awarded the African Industry Personality of the Year Award 2020. She will definitely make an interesting facilitator. Ms. Silele, I hope I've done your profile justice. Please come on stage. Let's give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
And I think you forgot that I'm not as tall as you. Hey, and I think you forgot that dynamites come in small packages. Ladies, is it good afternoon already? Yes, it is. Good afternoon to all of you. And good afternoon to our guests who are obviously joining us virtually. My name is Ipileng Silele, as Yanda introduced me, and today I am going to be the moderator. And probably I just want to really just send my gratitude to the MNS family, and I think most importantly the founders of MNS, who obviously saw it fit that I could come and be a neutral party to today's event. And I'll obviously just touch on my journey as we go along. I think Zianda did give us context around that. And I probably would like us to keep today's discussion as authentic as possible, as fun as possible, as truthful as possible, and as light as possible, just to keep things light. I think we all come from spaces where sometimes things are so uptight, a lot of stuff. You just have to, not to say you have to put on this demeanor, but sometimes it's just not light. So I think today I woke up with such excitement and thinking, today I'm going to spend time with people I don't know, but people I know very well, that we are aligned one way or the other, because our experiences, our challenges, and the journeys that we've embarked on, somehow, one way or the other, we can relate to those aspects. So I am very excited about today, and I'd like to, of course, introduce my panel and just take you through these accomplished women. I was just saying to Advocate Mahlape, hey, I said to my husband, it's so nice to moderate a panel where you are dealing with the veterans. You are dealing with people who actually humble us. You will be today at least having a discussion with people who also are teaching us so much just by your conduct. You don't have to say much, but I've gone through their profiles and I thought to myself, sure, I wonder if I get to my 50s, I get to my 60s, I'll be able to do the things that you do. So I really would like to say to all of you, we salute you, we take note, we follow you even without you guys realizing that. So we're so proud of you. And just know that today, even though we will embark on some of the challenges and constructive things that we need to look at, and to also see how we can actually put our hands together to look at how we can contribute. And we realize that we will be filling very big shoes. I said to Sis Gloria, I don't know how you do it. I do not know how you do it. Knowing what I know about your journey and knowing what I know about the things you do on a daily basis, how you commit yourself to all these things that, or rather try to work with younger people, but also so authentic. I don't know how you ladies do it. So today we celebrate you. Know that. We are here, we salute you in many cases. So I must say I'm extremely humbled, ladies, and also to the DPP, who I know is joining us virtually, as Zianda said. So without further ado, ladies, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. And I'll start with Mema Hlape. Or maybe let me start with the DPP, because she is on virtual. She's joining us virtually, right, Zianda? Okay. So the profile of our DPP, Advocate Nompilo Koleka Kaleka, was born in Johannesburg and grew up in her hometown of Umzimkhulu. Advocate Koleka prides herself with a multicultural upbringing spread across the provinces of Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal, which has contributed immensely to her value system and her passion for public service, particularly serving in the interests of the poor and marginalized. Advocate Kaleka has served as a special advisor to the Ministry of Department of Public Service and Administration, Department of Home Affairs, and Department of Finance, respectively, with a specific focus in the area of administration, legal, legislation, and policy development, strategy, compliance, and governance. Advocate Kaleka served on the Committee of Inquiry probing the state of affairs of municipalities across Gauteng. She has also served on various boards. What I found interesting about Advocate's vision was that she says that she would like to utilize her legal acumen in enhancing good governance, ethical, sound, legal, and strategic advice and practice. An enterprising and astute legal professional that, of course, it spans through 14 years, and also She has been a special advisor to the Executive Authority at the Department of Home Affairs, and also strong acumen in providing litigation and legal advisory services to the executive, senior government officials, departments, and organizations. So the career progression was obviously based on merit, as we know. It's illustrative of her continuous improvement philosophy. So solid strategy in her view, solid strategy formulation, being a strategist, I actually can relate to that. Solid strategy formulation, organizational management skills with a unique ability to work with stakeholders in the design and implementation of legal solutions, as well as the ability to execute through the people. Even before her appointment as the DPP of the Republic of South Africa, she had already proven herself as an astute lawyer and prosecutor, having started her career with the NPA as the aspirant prosecutor in 2004. She is a former first black female national chairperson of the Society of State Advocates of South Africa and a member of Black Lawyers Association, and she holds an LLB degree from University of KZN, obtained in 2003, and recently acquired LLM degree in commercial law from University of Johannesburg. Please let's give her a round of applause. Advocate Nompilo, we do celebrate you in so many ways. And in fact, I looked at you and I thought, wow, and she looks so young, right? She looks so young. So moving right along, Advocate Mahlape Sello. Advocate Mahlape Sello is a practicing senior advocate and a member of the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, and has been in practice since 2003. She holds a Master's of Arts in Law from the Voronezh State University in Russia. Very interesting. Advocate Mahlape, Russia, and LLB from University of Wits. She's also currently pursuing a postgraduate program in international construction, practice and law at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. Wow. I mean, sitting on the German board of Siemens, I can imagine how that is. We celebrate you. Advocate Mahlape is the Secretary General of Johannesburg Branch of Advocates for Transformation, an organization that supports the development of the previously disadvantaged persons in the legal profession. She's currently a non-executive director of Life Health Group Holdings Limited and Tiger Brands Limited. She previously also served on the board of Marion Roberts Limited and held position of chairman from 2013 to 2017. She's a member of International Court of Arbitration of the International Chamber of Commerce Council and a panelist of the Arbitration Foundation of Southern Africa and the China-Africa Joint Arbitration Center. She's a former chairman of the Advertising Industry Tribunal of Advertising Standards Authority of South Africa. Furthermore, she served on the South African Law Reform Commission, National Business Initiative, the Joint Education Trust, and also as an acting chairperson of the Advisory Committee on Licensing of Private Hospitals of the Gauteng Department of Health, amongst others. That's Advocate Mahlape. Wow. Hey, wow, Advocate Mahlape. In fact, it's going to be very interesting because I'm just looking at that. Germany, Russia, China. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got a lot to talk about. We celebrate you. And then moving right along to Sis Gloria Tomato Serobe, someone I can confess that I know her warmly, and someone that continues to inspire us in so many ways. And to a certain extent, it does make me a bit emotional because of knowing the authentic leader that she is. So Gloria is a founding member and executive director of WIPHOLD and chief executive officer of WIP Capital. Her professional experience includes positions at Exxon Corporation in the USA, Munich Reinsurance Company of SA, the Premier Group and Standard Corporate and Merchant Bank. She was the executive director, finance at Transnet Limited, and was a member of the Transnet board and its major subsidiaries coming from the maritime sector. It's going to be very interesting, Sis Gloria, to also touch on that chapter of your journey. Sis Gloria is a chairman of the Solidarity Response Fund, incorporated in March 2020, in response to President Cyril Ramaphosa's call for national unity at the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa. Like I said earlier on, ladies, I don't know how they do it. She serves on the several boards, including Hans Merensky Holdings, Adcop Holdings, and Denel. She's an honorary member of the Actuarial Society of South Africa and is a member of the SAICA Advisory Council. Her previous non-executive directorships include chairman of the board of the Independent Ports Regulator. Chairman of the Life Officers Association, Chairman of the Metropolitan Group, Old Mutual, Nedbank, Sasol Mining, Sasfin, Export Credit Insurance Corporation, Airports Company South Africa, Express Kenya Limited, MCEL, MTN, the Financial Markets Advisory Board, and the JSE. Gloria obtained her BCom degree from the University of Transkei and holds an MBA degree from Rutgers University, New Jersey. Hey, we have powerhouses, good people. So since Gloria's community upliftment and women empowerment projects, and I think we all know her for that, development at the core of the things that you do, and her contributions to reshaping South Africa's economic development, she has been conferred to the following honoraries. 2016, Doctor of Management Science by Durban University of Technology. In 2020, Doctor of Commerce from Walter Sisulu University. 2021, PhD Entrepreneurship, University of Johannesburg. 2021, Doctor of Philosophy in the Faculty of Business and Economic Science, Nelson Mandela University. Sis Gloria, this is unfair. Sis Glo, no. We celebrate you. Congratulations. And moving right along to Mrs. Tlaleni Klepu. Klepu is a black female legal practitioner, and of course, I don't probably have to mention the practice number. Her qualifications: BProc degree from the University of the North, LLB degree from the University of the North, admitted as the attorney of the High Court in 1989, admitted as a conveyancer in 1994, admitted as a notary public in 2018, attended judicial training in 2008, obtained the following certificates through the Independent Service of South Africa: arbitration, mediation, and dispute resolution. Certificate in commercial law transactions conducted by the Black Lawyers Association, Legal Education Center, LSSA, LEAD, an American Bar Association. Hey, Mentlep. Root Cause Analysis Technique Certificate by RCA Global, Health and Safety Training course by ESCOM, Computer-Based Adjudication Skills course by LEAD, Certificate in Court Annexed Mediation by Dispute Settlement Accreditation Council, Certificate of Appreciation on Legal Benchmarking on Land and Real Estate Law between Angola and South Africa. Practice history. Founding Director of Molefe Klepu Incorporated. Established in 1995 with staff contingent of 25. President of the Law Society Northern Province, Law Society of Northern Province in Council, and then Chairperson of Appeals of the Security Industry Regulators Board, Vice President of the Black Lawyers Association, Co-Chairperson of the Lawyers Society of South Africa, and then the past directorship, which is important for us to note. Member of the Enforcement Committee of the Financial Service Board Institution, now Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Chairperson of the Policy and Compliance Committee of the Attorneys Fidelity Fund, Non-Executive Director of Regulatory Board by NHBRC, member of the National Forum of the Legal Practice Act, and chair of the Transitional Committee. Member of South African Women Lawyers Association. When I say we have big shoes to fill, we have big shoes to fill. It actually gives me sleepless nights. And every time I talk to my peers, I actually challenge all of them and I say, guys, are we there? I don't know. I look forward to hearing that. Because I find that there's this level, there's man, you know, we are here. So I'm closing the gap, bridging that gap. I'd like us to actually get into that, because it's important that we have that honest conversation. Because when I introspect and I look at us, our peers, sometimes I ask myself, oh, Ratswafa. Like, so I'd like to hear from all of you. We celebrate you, Metlepu. And then moving right along to Fezi Pungula. So Feziwe joined MNS in 2016 and specializes in litigation in areas such as medical malpractice, employment law, administrative law, and contractual law. She holds an LLB degree from the University of Zululand, has instituted and defended matters from the High Court to the Constitutional Court. Her career highlights are the following: defending the constitutionality of Section 38(2) BEI of the Public Service Act, which allowed an employer to recover any overpayment made to an employee without the employee's consent or following due process, defending the constitutionality of Section 23 again of the Road Accident Fund Act, which regulates civil claims emanating from the irregular award of the 2064 locomotives by Transnet SOE. Modimo Feziwe, you are brave. Eh, you are courageous. Very interesting to note that, because as you can imagine, we read up a lot about this. We listen to the Zondo Commission. Kanti, you are right in the midst of it. Usebit, Sataule khona. Acting on behalf of the Nazareth Baptist Church, Ebuhleni, in a highly publicized litigious matter relating to the lawfully recognized leader of the church. She describes working at M&S as being part of a university. You learn so much, and there are no limits to the opportunities. Qualifications: LLB, University of Zululand, admitted attorney of the High Court of South Africa. Areas of expertise: labor law, litigation law, administrative law, contract law, medical malpractice, and transport law. Yeah, ne? So I think, Fezi, given your background, I think you're up to the task. You are up to the task, lady. And I look at the ladies that you're sitting next to. Oh, Rofik. You have what it takes. We celebrate you, Feziwe. And moving right along to Justice Mbele. Justice Mbele, of course, we heard that you were just recently appointed. And I'd like to go through her bio. Key judgments: Royal Family of Amadlomo versus Premier of the Eastern Cape, Copper Sunset Trading 443, SV Maketa, Social Housing Regulatory Authority versus Free State Housing Company, and others. The latest experience of the three candidates in terms of the length of time spent on the bench: Judge Mbele was appointed to the Free State High Court in 2016. She has also served as an acting judge of the High Court of Lesotho and served 2 stints as acting deputy judge president during 2020. Prior to her elevation to the bench, she practiced as an attorney, including a decade working for Legal Aid South Africa. During her time at Legal Aid, Judge Mbele gained leadership experience by serving on the Justice Center Executive and a regional operations executive. She also served as a part-time lecturer at Free State Technikon between 1999 and 2002. Judge Mbele's judgment in cases involving rape and sexual violence, the crux of it. I would like us to touch on that, Judge. I'd like us to actually touch on that. Because today we said we're going to be authentic, we're going to have a balanced conversation. I don't know quote it today, but would like to touch on that, to hear your experience in this regard. And I think with COVID, we've been reading the articles saying that this matter has gotten worse. I'd like to hear from you. May have raised some eyebrows among commissioners. In this case, the accused had pleaded guilty and been convicted of the rape of a 9-year-old. Being a mother of a 9-year-old, I'm shivering, and was sentenced to life imprisonment by the regional court. On appeal, whilst emphasizing that the Constitution gave paramount importance to a child's best interests, Judge Mbele found that there were substantial and compelling circumstances to justify deviating from the minimum sentence. These were that the accused was a first offender, he was 71 years old. 71 years old and the sole breadwinner of his family. He had committed the offense whilst under the influence of alcohol and shown no remorse by pleading guilty. The chances of him re-offending were found to be slim Judge Mbele replaced the sentence of life imprisonment with one of 10 years imprisonment. Round of applause, good people. Of the Black Lawyers Association. Prior to her appointment as a judge, while a member of the BLA, she served as National Treasurer between 2011 and 2013 and served 2 terms as Free State Chairperson between 2006 and 2010. Wow. So ladies, round of applause. We're in the company of giants. We're in the company of giants. Panelists, if I can invite you to please join us on the floor. Thank you. Realities. Any suggestions, any recommendations? What can you tell me? And I'll tell you as we go along. But I had to do that. I thought it's important that we're also inclusive in our conversation, because then we can't have a conversation in isolation without our men, because they're our husbands, they're our dads, we're also raising boys. So if we do not, from time to time, tap into their brain, their perspective, regardless of what we think, then it will defeat the purpose, because we need to at least get to a point where we can say, and also I think what's also important is to attest to the fact that they are our support structure, one way or the other. I mean, many of us, I'm sure, can attest to that, where you say, if my husband had not supported me, I wouldn't be where I am. If my dad had not even given me the permission to be confident and express myself freely, I wouldn't be where I am. So I thought it was important that I called on to those male counterparts. So I'll take you through what they had to say. It's going to be interesting. So the slow pace of the gender transformation in the legal fraternity or business cannot be evaluated in isolation, as I said. The discussion must be placed within the larger SA context, which we know that transformation in itself, particularly in its broadest sense, it is a very complicated and a difficult matter. That alone, because of the landscape that we operate in. Now, considering the causes of the slow pace, as I've just alluded to, we are here to reflect on the possible ways that we could accelerate, speed up things, contribute, maybe also step up. Because I think now, personally, I feel like I have to step up because I, like I said, true Pan-Africanist, Southeast Asia in Singapore, in particular, Europe and US. We raise capital in my business. We deal with financial sector. You can imagine you deal with the deal teams. We deal with the litigators. We deal with, of course, lots and lots, and different ones because it's different jurisdictions in the legal fraternity. We deal with all sorts of them. And we also advise government. We own our own assets. We transport cargo, whether it's liquid bulk or dry bulk. We develop projects, and we have teams that execute in RRS investments. We are in the artificial intelligence space and cybersecurity space. So I have a CEO, Busi Mati, who specializes in cybersecurity. And we know what happens to bullying. We're going to get to it. So we do have business interest in that. So I'll be speaking a lot from what I've experienced and observed. Of money, and then it was like, oh, now I'm 65. I could give one a charity. I organize a foundation or CSI. So we're trying to make sure that that is part of our business model, and to ensure that we contribute towards the inclusion of women, youth, and SMMEs in the aspect of the value chain. And an interesting experience as well is, of course, operating in the spaces that we operate in. You know, when one goes to Brixie, you go to Davos in Switzerland, and you observe, you walk around, it's icy, it's cold. It's men. Get a black suit, a navy blue suit. And you walk around and you always say to yourself, how do I break this barrier? How do we break this barrier? Where here's an environment where, of course, we have top brains. Why don't we have more women in Davos? We remain authentic and fluid. I invited young people. I came across a brilliant young lady. How I came across Siposihle, because like they've always said, how you must bring two. To just listen to what you have to say about today's discussion, the topic. Where to from here? How far have we come? And because you guys are the future leaders, we look to you. But we also realize that we can't have a conversation as just top executives. It's important that this conversation, again, it's inclusive. We can also talk to the younger ones. So I'm going to be picking on some of you to just hear your voice. Because you know how you go to those functions, and you've just been listening to people go podium, and you're thinking, I'm here, right? So I think it's important that we allow our panelists to also get a sense of what other young people have to say. So supposedly, can I ask you to just give us a few words from a young person's perspective? Because we've got you, we've got Kuhle. Kuhle is also going to take us through her own perspective and tell us what her experience is, and just to give us advice or recommendation. Sipho, let's start with you, and then we've got Kuhle.
Wow, clapping for myself.
Oh, she can come here.
Force of habit. As Auntie
Oh, she can
Beleng
come
said,
here.
my name is Sipho Sihlengo-Sazanambuli, and the panel discussion that Auntie Beleng is speaking about got me in serious trouble, because I got there and I said, quite frankly, I, as a black woman in the school, feel that I was not meaningfully prepared to participate in the world that I'm going into. And I believe my white counterparts were, and not the same for us black girls. I am now in my final year of law school, having lectured, of course, at WITS as well, having won a radio award, having done many things, and I feel WITS has done the same thing for me. I feel if I had not gone outside and learned this information and bombarded Abo Auntie Ipileng, bombarded my mom, bombarded various spaces, I wouldn't have learned as much as I could have, and I wouldn't have been as equally prepared. So the question is, what do I think of the discussion today? I'm scared, but I'm very encouraged. I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to see the way forward. How do I feel about the legal fraternity? I have long, in class from first year, was told I'm too radical for my own good. My mom once looked at me once and said, "Yes, Posihle, why must you always go against the stream? We're all swimming this way and you're going this way." I'm against the question. I think we need to stop asking how far we've come and push, because no one is lingering and looking and waiting for us. No one's going to open the door for us. I'm a firm believer that we need to stop asking for spaces in rooms. We need to knock the doors down. We need to rock up. And Deepileng, I kind of just rocked up. And I hope I've answered you, and I hope that's enough. But I'm looking forward. Thank you so much for also taking the time. I believe that information for women does not come in media, does not come in stories, and information for black women comes from other black women, because they are the only ones who've experienced this world in a certain percentage that we have. So I look forward to hearing all your contributions and learning from your paths. Thank you.
Thank you, Sipho. That was great. Another round of applause. And I'd like to ask Kuhle. Where's Kuhle? Yes, Kuhle, would like to hear your perspective as a young lady.
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry. My perspective, I can touch on my journey from university. First of all, I just want to say that girls and boys, women and men are not the same. There are different things that are required of us. And as a young woman in university, I always had this responsibility of going back home and cooking that was required of me. So it's that constant knowing your responsibilities and also juggling that with your work and everything. So in that sense, in university, that was the sort of challenge that I have less time, I think, to dedicate to my studies as I did with, as opposed to like men, for example. Even when I completed my degree, finding a job in this industry is really hard, because I found a job 2 years after I qualified. And to mitigate that, there are things like PLTs that I have to do for 6 months. And then I was like, okay, I've done my PLTs, let's do my boards. I did my boards. Even at that point, it wasn't easy to get a job. I thought it would be circumventing unemployment. But it was still difficult. And luckily enough, M&S attorneys gave me the opportunity to go into the law firm, and I've been thrown into the deep end. As a candidate attorney, I never really did filing and printing. I think Mr. Ndlovu once saw me by the printer and was like, "What are you doing there? There are people that are supposed to do what you're doing. What are you doing there?" So I've been privileged enough to get into the work, draft, learn from my colleagues, and I'm really grateful that M&S Attorneys has really strong black females that have taught me so much, and I've grown so much from February 2019 till now, I'm really fortunate. Even the matters that I deal with are very high profile, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I'm really nervous because, you know, how do I manage my time to study and be like our panelists up there? How do I juggle the long hours of working and still upgrading myself? That's a constant fear that I have as well as a woman, that I have to set myself apart from my counterparts. And that's basically my input. I would like to know, when I do get to where you are at your age, does it get better? Do you manage? Does it get better? Are you able to manage your time more for friendships, for relationships? Are you able to, you know, to have more time for those things? Because even now, I was sitting out there, and in my head, I'm like, oh, I owe someone a report. So even on your weekends, your mind is completely thinking about work. How do you make time for other things in your lives?
Sure. Wow. Thank you so much, Kuhle. Thank you. That is useful. And I'm going to ask another young lady, chartered accountant, group CEO of the Gauteng Growth Development Agency, Musa Shabalala, one of the youngest group CEOs I know. And interesting because I've watched your journey. I'd like to ask you, what do you think about today's topic? What is your perspective, Musa? Operating in this tough environment that we operate in.
Good afternoon, ladies, and it is an absolute honor to be amongst all of you. And maybe let me start by saying, listening to the profiles of our panelists, I think I stopped breathing for 30 seconds because I was like, I thought I was somewhere in my life, and I'm actually like at minus 10. I'm not even at 0. And I think the questions that the two young ladies, or the points that they've raised, are so powerful, because in my mind, I'm still trying to reconcile how the panel, all you ladies are where you are in the real world, balancing everything and achieving what you're achieving, and you are parents, and you are wives, and you are aunts, and you are daughters. And it really sometimes feels like an impossible struggle. But what also has come to my mind now is, I think what we don't do well enough as women is tell our stories and tell the truth about the story, and be visible enough that a person that is still coming along knows that it's possible, knows that it will come with its challenges, but it comes with its glory as well, knows that their dreams are valid, which is quite a cliche point, but it's a real thing. When I was listening to the different bios, I sat here thinking, how do I not know this about all these ladies? How do I not, how's it possible that even where I sit and the spaces that I engage in, how do I not know these stories? Because it would make my role feel lighter. And I'm sure, you know, the panelists will attest to this, but it is extremely lonely at the top. It is extremely lonely, not only from a gender perspective, but it's lonely because you deal with so many different things on a daily basis, and you actually sometimes don't know where to run to get counsel. You don't know where to run, you don't know where to go to get advice. You don't know where to go when you are limping and you need a crutch. Making decisions around, is this the right thing? I've never faced this situation before. This is overwhelming, this is scary. Where do I go to get my sounding board? And I will be honest, in my personal career, I have found a lot of mentorship, and I'm fortunate, But unfortunately, from a gender balance, it's been more men than women. And it's unfortunate not only because it's the true reflection of the gender balance in the world, right, in the business world. So it is natural that you would probably find more men mentors because there are more men that we see, they are visible. But even now in my position as a group CEO and as we recruit for executive positions, we struggle to find female applicants. In every 10, we are lucky if we find one. So what that tells me is that as women, we honestly feel like we have to be 110% good enough for roles when men feel like 30% is more than good enough. Because then you interview them and they are so average. They are so mediocre. And you're thinking, hey man, I know people who are better than this, but they don't apply. They're scared to take up positions and take up space. So I think today's conversation is important, but I'm going to challenge all of us. I mean, even the two ladies who spoke, and myself especially, is we actually need to think about what visibility looks like. Because people need to know that it's possible, and people need to aspire towards it and even have access to the truth behind how you get there. So I think for me, I would want to understand why we are not visible enough. And are we shy because society tells us that, no, you must be humble. As a woman, you must be humble. You mustn't be seen too much. You mustn't blast your story too much, you know? Because when you're an average, I mean, you know, I'm even thinking about at work when my male executives, and I hope this doesn't go too public, but when they do this, the most minute thing, I must know, Musa must know, listen, this is where I am. And my female executives who do mind-blowing things will never tell me until I ask. There's something that we are not communicating as we go through our professional journeys. And I think we need to ask ourselves real questions about what that is and where that stems from.
Wow. Thank you, Musa. That's very refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A nice way to start our conversation. So moving to our last young person, Lulama. Lulama is a senior partner at White & Case. From Bomin, Gilfilen, Weber Wenzel as well, and Allen and Overy in London and Paris. Lulu, can you take us through what, or rather maybe just, take us into your confidence? What do you think about our discussion today? And what would you like to hear from our very accomplished ladies?
Hello, everybody. I wasn't expecting this, Ipileng. Yes. I'm actually quite heartened by the young two legal graduate and, well, almost legal graduate and the candidate attorney because, yes, I am a partner at White & Case, and part of being a partner at White & Case is recruiting talent. And you know, we've had to consider what does that mean, and we've had to interrogate what does that mean. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of us have let females, in particular black females, down. Okay? I started my journey at Weber Wenzel. I was not going to be a lawyer, by the way. I did a business science degree at the University of Cape Town and was going to Shell, and then I was offered a bursary to go study law. And I did that concurrently while completing my law degree. And Weber Wenzel was the first time they'd done it before, and everybody said it was going to be easy. And I thought, oh, I can do this. The hardest thing I've ever done. And during that journey, you know, I did a lot of introspection, and I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? I needed a lot of mentorship. And through trying to find that mentorship, I looked around. There were only white males. And as much as, you know, I mean, look, I've survived in that environment, yeah, but it's really difficult because there's a lot of things that you just don't relate with these people, right? Anyway, I decided I want to do corporate law, and in particular, I wanted to do banking and finance. I was told, no, you cannot do banking and finance because basically you have not done any banking law course. Excuse me, I've just done a business science law degree. Do you know what that means? Nobody cared. Anyway, I decided I'm going to find a space, and a black lady from Berman Gilfillan, she was in the private equity team. She was actively looking for another black female, and she was looking for a young black female to groom, and she basically approached me. And for me, that was very important because it was somebody that I thought was like me and would have an interest in me, and quite frankly, I wanted to work with a black person. And so I moved to Berman Gilfillan. It's actually one of the, and Berman is a great law firm, okay, but one of the most disappointing moves in my career to date. I think there's just, as senior black leaders, I think there's this perception, and this is not everybody, that, you know, I've had to work hard, I've had to put in the miles, I had to suffer, and therefore that is how you're going to have to get through. And it broke me completely. And as a result, I decided I'm not doing this law thing anymore. And I left for a year to go to Standard Bank. Later, a white male from Berman again called me back. He said, "Are you done with your breakdown? Do you want to come back?" And yeah, I did want to go back, so I went back. Anyway, I mean, I'm telling this story because, like I say, I'm in recruitment now. And obviously, I'm a partner now at White & Case. And, you know, it has made me have to think about how am I as a person? How am I perceived as a person? And be truthful and honest about it and take accountability for it. Do I smile to young lawyers, in particular female lawyers? And is there a bias that I have? And, you know, what am I doing? What am I actually doing in trying to actively recruit and mentor young black females? And it's tough. It really is tough. Because what I will say to young black lawyers or younger juniors coming up, it is a two-way street. And it is a give and take. And sometimes we have expectation of people, but we don't put in the work ourselves. And so today, I would just like to say to the panelists, for me, you know, when you're leading, even when you think you're not leading, just sitting there, we're observing. And what you say, when you're walking past in the corridors without a smile, those are the things that actually have the biggest impact, more than it is giving me a mandate or even giving me an opportunity. So those soft things are very important. To the juniors, you two in particular, I don't know if there's any other ones, you look like you're young as well. Sorry. You know what? It's hard, you know, and it's a journey, okay? It's not going to take you a year. It's not going to take you 2 years. The panelists here have been doing this for decades. And sometimes we look at them and we think, oh, I want to be like them. Why can't I be like them? It's taken a lot of sacrifice, and it's a journey. Give yourself a break, okay? Give yourself a break and enjoy the journey. Absorb as much as you can and challenge yourself and just get into it. It will come.
Wow. Yo. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lulama. It would be interesting. I wish I was a fly in the brains of the veterans, sitting here listening to these ladies, young ladies, about their perspective, but I'm sure we're going to get into it. Another round of applause. We have great young people in our country. Only if we give them a chance and we believe and we ensure that we include them in our conversations. So we are going to just start. My first question is looking at our accomplished women. There's a story behind the journey that you have traveled. And I think it would be interesting just to touch on the challenges, the successes, and the lessons learned. And I'd like that each panelist can just take us through this. I'd like to start with the DPP. Thanks, Nell. I love the digital world, eh?
Absolutely. Sound.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all this panelists, the facilitator, the young women present. I'm really excited to hear of the journeys that the young women have taken. Madam Facilitator, I'd like you to please repeat your last two sentences on and off because of the... I don't know whether it's my mic or your
The
mic
connection.
that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly now.
Wonderful. So let me repeat myself. As an accomplished woman, there's a story behind your journey that you have traveled. We are curious to hear what challenges you faced, any successes and lessons learned. It's interesting to note, because when I did go through your profile, I also like your multicultural aspect to things, because they always tell us that we need IQ, we need cultural intelligence, we also need emotional intelligence. So can you please take us into your confidence and tell us what these challenges have been? Any emotional scars, if any? Would like to know that, because I think we learn a lot from people's journeys. So over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. If you see me switching off my video, you must just know that my bandwidth is going bad, but I just hope it doesn't. I really just want to start with a quote from Umamu Charlotte Maxeke. And it really what I think defines us as women in the legal field and women leaders to reach what you describe as accomplished facilitator. I don't know if 17 years of experience is an accomplishment. I think I'm still in that journey. It's a journey in progress, I'm still aspiring to accomplish. But I quote from Umama Charlotte Maxeke. Let me say this to you girls. It is the beauty of the heart and good behavior that will last until you go to the grave. Beauty is adorable when accompanied by other good things. Try to exercise self-control. I unquote. The reason why I'm quoting this as I describe my journey is because throughout you will notice that exercising restraint and having and trying to be that kind person and having that beauty inside more than anything, a good behavior. And she simplifies it, but it is what we would describe in governance as ethics, integrity, dignity, your esteem. These are the things, as I relate my journey, I think are the values that have really guided me to be where I am. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been. My journey resumed in 2004 as an aspirant prosecutor in the NPA. I don't know how I landed as a lawyer. It was never in any of my dreams. I wanted to be a communicator, an actor. That is what I was good at. It's my talent. But when I went to tertiary, that moment when I was registering, that's when things changed, and I ended up registering for an LLB. From the classroom journey, young black females, even back then, which is not that far, 99, were very few. And even fewer graduated in 2003 finally. So we fall through the cracks, and that's where it begins. When I resumed my career in 2004, again, and I must also be grateful to our democracy and the laws of this country, because I am one of those who can proudly say I am a product of the Employment Equity Act. If it wasn't for quota, I don't think I would have entered prosecution. It was not a field for young black women, not at all. This was evident when I did one of my few cases in court, and I was prosecuting at the Protea Magistrates Court, where I was requesting one of the attorneys to come to court because I had been waiting for him the whole morning. And around 11, I was concluding the matters that I had to postpone. And I wanted to start with my trials. So I went through the corridors looking for him so that I could ask him to come to court, which was not usual. Attorneys would normally be at court at 9 o'clock. So I approached him and I said, "Excuse me, sir, your matter is the only matter I have left to postpone. Would you kindly come to court?" He looked at me, bottom up, top bottom, and he said to me, "I will come to court when I want to." And I said to him, "No, you were supposed to be at court at 9, so you have to come now. Otherwise, I'm going to postpone your matter without you." And he responded, he said to me, "You know what? I've been working at these corridors of this court for many years, even before you were born. So you can't come and tell me that you will postpone my matter without me." And hey, Lampis was the chief prosecutor, so he refers to me and he says, "Hey, and Lampis, now they employ dolls to come and be prosecutors. Are these people serious?" It hit, and it hit very hard. But that moment on, I said to myself, this one doesn't understand what this doll is going to do. I went to court. I postponed his matter. Life went on. I resumed the trial. He walked in after lunch at 2. He wanted his matter. And I said, I postponed it. The magistrate was another black man. And he said to me, "No, Mr. Lega, can we recall the matter?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to recall it unless you get another prosecutor to recall it. I have approached Mr. So-and-so and I informed him that I had to postpone his matter." And his response was condescending, "So I'm not going to." Indeed, I didn't. Postponed the matter for 7 days. His client had to be in prison for 7 days. For me, that was, when I got home that day, I asked myself, where have I landed myself? You know? But I knew that it's a journey that's going to require courage. It's a journey that's going to require resilience. And indeed, that's how I moved on. In less than 2 years, I moved to the High Court. And you know that, and it's what I continue to see amongst us women. We do develop personality traits to fit into the environment, to survive in the environment. And one of them for me was being cheeky. And I was known for being cheeky. And it's something I didn't grow up with, but it was a survival tool for me. So when I moved to the High Court at a very early stage, again, just thanks to equity, they wanted black females, and I was one of them. I started prosecuting in the High Court, and as I was admitted as an advocate in 2006, even more tough. But I was very, very fortunate to mention these two esteemed women. My first case I did in the South Gauteng High Court was before Justice Khambebe. I was told when I go to her that she's very strict. So she was mainly reserved for blacks so that she could fix them, you know. And I went to prosecute before her. I found a mentor in her. I found a teacher in her. She was amazing. Another esteemed woman, Judge Mailula, Lucy Mailula, who would even call me to her chambers, you know, to coach me. And you would see how other judges treat other counsel. But I can say that those two women had a dedication of teaching and mentoring other women. And I owe part of my journey to them because it actually taught me how to mentor and coach other women and how important that is so that you build their confidence when they have to stand up, whether in court or in the boardroom. But the major challenge as well that I faced was from fellow women as well. And it's one thing I said, as I grow up, I want to be that older woman who recognizes and who wants to lift young women as I rise. Because I suffered under most of the women who questioned my credentials because I was growing up the ranks as a young woman. I became an acting executive at the age of 28. At the age of 30, I was appointed as an executive, which was the Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions in the South Gauteng Division. When I entered the tea room, black women would walk out. And you know what I did? I would enter the tea room at 9:10. Tea starts at 9. And I would walk in at 10:00. Because it's not me that a young black woman appointed who didn't have the years of experience that I had, that they had. Yes, I didn't have them. But I had hard work. I had courage. I knew I didn't have the years behind me. I had to accumulate other skills to ensure that I fit the profile that was wanted. I read a lot. I volunteered a lot. I did a lot of things. And at the same time, my social life suffered. As a mother, my son is 18 years old now. I would sleep around 12 a.m., 6 a.m. I'd be in the office because I had to prove myself beyond reproach that I was worthy. I could only survive marriage for 1 year because I was never available. I concentrated on my career. I was available to do the most cases, whether there were cases that would give me a conviction or not, but I always identified cases where I would learn a lesson. So one of the lessons out of the challenges that I have faced is that always do the hard work. Whether you win or not, you gain something. You learn something. I remember one of the cases, and I was a junior in the case, was the Glen Agliotti case. We were a team of 3, 2 black male and myself as the junior. Even in that team, they would hardly listen to me. Taking decisions, they wouldn't listen to me. they would go on. And you know, we got a 174 in the case, and one of the journalists wrote a book on the case. And at that time, I was contesting the position of the national chairperson of the Society of State Advocates, which had never been led by a black woman, nor had it ever been contested by a black woman. I decided I'm going to contest. And because of my student experience, I lobbied corner to corner in the whole country. I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, a skill that they didn't have because of my background of having been a student activist. So mainly when I wrote the book, part of the chapters of the book referred to me. And I was described as this young girl who didn't know what she was doing in court. And remember, I was the junior in court. I hardly participated in the trial, but the highlight had to be me because it had to mobilize me for the position of becoming the national chairperson of the Society of State Advocates. The judge in that case, he said to me, I watched you when you led witnesses and I watched you when you cross-examined witnesses. I listened to your argument. If that case had been given to you to do even alone, I don't think you guys would have gotten the outcome that you got. You are great, you were good. That encouraged me to move on, but I took it as a lesson. I took it as a lesson that there are areas of law I learned, but I also learned resilience out of it, that period. It was during the period of 2009 and 2010. I moved on. When I was promoted as a senior, I said to my colleagues, I'm giving myself 5 years in this position and must leave. Now, those who know the structure of the NPA, people appointed in that position never leave. They find comfort. And they said to me, where will you go? It pays a lot. Where will you be employed? I didn't know at the time. Exactly 5 years later, I was approached by one of the advisors in the government, and she said to me, my minister is looking for an advisor. Would you be interested? I didn't know what advisors do. I said, yes, I am. You know, I knew the 5 years had come and I had to leave. I went, I became an advisor. And one of the advisors, this lady, she said to me, Laga, you are only 35. You are the youngest advisor. The integrity of the office depends on you. They will see you, you are young, and they would want to enter the office with you. You'll find yourself having many suitors, and you'll think you're the prettiest girl alive. It wouldn't be about you, but the power. Don't borrow your power out to anyone. And for me, that's one of the critical lessons I would also want to say to the young females who are growing up in this fraternity. Throughout, as you climb up the ladder, men want your power, and they will want it in every, whether it's to bring it down or to have influence over your power. Wherever you say yes because you want to. Assess the situation, but guard your power, the authority you have, with your all. I normally say to young women, be careful who you open your cookie jar to, especially in this fraternity. I think Omamudlepu, they've grown here. They probably know what I'm talking about. There's a time when Minister Masuta was the minister, and he engaged with females in the bar. And most of them complained about how they had to suffer and what they had to endure to receive briefs. And that included having to open the cookie jar. Because they wanted your power. They wanted the power of those females. So it is very important that we are alive to those challenges and how we face them. I became an advisor for over 2 years, came into the position in which I'm in amongst other many positions that I've held. And still, the major challenge is having to stand up and have voice as a Black woman. I no longer regard myself as young. I'm 40 years old. But when people want to speak down at me, they still call me young. And I always say, at 40 years, I can't be young. But that's really been my journey. And critical out of that is really to say to the young woman, remember the words of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, the beauty of your behavior, the beauty of your being, your courage, your esteem and your dignity. That is what will take you through the road ahead.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Advocate. That was great. Thanks a lot. Let's give Advocate a round of applause, ladies. You know, the interesting thing about this, as to Musa's point, I know we look at the time, Zianda, and we do that a lot. And I'd like to really say it and say these conversations that we're having today, like Musa said, we've got no books. We don't have exclusive books. I might not ever, in fact, probably half of the women who are here, I'm not sure what are the chances of you guys meeting the Advocate to be able to hear what she had to go through. So I'm going to ask you to indulge us, ladies, because the conversation of today, it's not a whap conversation. And I'm looking at all your faces, the facial expressions, and you're paying attention to this. Some of you are even writing notes. So I'd like to really thank the MNS family and to, again, remind all of you that the conversation we're having today is a very personal conversation that we're having. It's very difficult. I know in boardrooms, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, I must be out. But I'm listening to Advocate's story, and I say to myself, we love substance, and we are deprived of substance. We don't have boys' clubs. We don't go to clubbing after work, or we don't play golf to be able to talk about these things. So I just think it is important that we remember that today's conversation is a heart-to-heart conversation. And I'm sure as ladies you understand and you get what I mean. So even though we will ask a lot of our panelists to keep it short, please feel free to go deeper. Because Sis Gloria, I don't know how many times you're able to take all these 100 people into your office to talk to them. So today, we are here to be sponges and grasp freely because we've had to dedicate today to this conversation. Moving right along, Memahlab, please take us through your journey, even though, as I said, we'll try and keep it short, but feel free to go deeper. And hence, I'm asking my audience that, guys, we can't hour. Can we keep it as a quality conversation, even though they'll keep it short? Over to you.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation to this event. I was encouraged when you set the tone for this discussion, that it's not going to be about reading a paper to you, that it's going to be a chat. And as you rightly say, we don't play golf together. We don't have clubs, which is where the chats happen. And I'm happy to hear that we are not here to sort of sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya and talk about our problems, because we have become an echo chamber. We know our problems. And hopefully today we are going to focus more on the solutions. And I guess, except for Mr. Robert, nobody has them. You can all turn to her for the solutions. But other than that, I'm sure nobody has them. The journey it's one thing I can tell you, even before I talk about myself, everybody has had a journey. Everybody. You've had it. And it hasn't been easy. And that is one thing that a whole lot of people have in common, you know, the ladies you have before you. It's a difficult journey. My journey is my journey, my difficulties, yours are yours, but the journey, one thing that we all have in common is a difficult journey. I think the question really is, what do you do when confronted with the difficulties at the various points of your life? Do you cave in? Do you do the nice girly thing and burst into tears? Sometimes it's necessary. I've had my moments as well. Yes, our journeys, I think, can be inspirational. But in truth, the journey is mine. The person that I am, the circumstances I went through are very peculiar to me. You can't walk my journey. I think we should have a conversation of how to help you walk your journey, right? So looking to myself, I don't know to what extent circumstances contributed. I don't know to what extent personality and the character I have contributed. I'm stubborn by nature. I mean, I frustrate myself, so I understand the rest of the world. As you heard, I studied in Russia, I studied in Russian, learning the language, having to master the language in order to study. Had its own frustrations. The environment was very different from anything I'd ever known. It was difficult. It was a question of, do I throw in the towel and say I give up? Or do I knuckle down and deal with this, you know? And to borrow from a Russian phrase, the only way the steel gets tempered is to heat up the steel. It first must be heated up, be molten, before you can get the best strength out of it. So for as long as you don't feel that anything is sufficiently challenging you in life, then I bet you're not on the right track yet. You are not on your path yet. One of the speakers, I think it was you, who spoke about going against the stream. You're women. That's what you have to do. Part of things that hold us back, it's a lovely word, but at the same time, I don't like it. There's a word called empowerment. There's something about that word, either the way it's applied or interpreted, but it says a lot about me being given. By who? Why give me what gave you the right to own it in the first place? So I'm being accommodated, and it's an uncomfortable feeling for me. So, as I said, my character didn't help. The best thing I could do was to, rather than knock on the door, kick the door open. But I find that doing it in stilettos is much more elegant. But you kick down that door. And sometimes you go against convention and you kick a door you shouldn't have. You land in there and know that now I've got nobody to blame. I brought myself here, I placed myself in this position. What am I going to do? Am I going to walk through that door that I've broken to admit that I made a mistake? Or am I going to do something? There is no greater accomplishment than where you have probably gone in, where angels feared to tread. And you know that your integrity doesn't allow you to admit defeat. Somehow you're going to have to find a solution in this room and do it. When you do it and you accomplish, it feels far greater than anything that anyone has ever given you. So, what can I say you about my journey? I studied law in Russia, I studied LLB. I've put together, I was just law. And I couldn't get articles. But I don't think I seriously looked for articles because I wasn't sure if I want to continue on that journey. And at the time, there was this buzzword. I'm thinking, there's got to be more to life than law. Maybe I'd become comfortable with understanding law. I think I know what it is, and maybe I can prove to myself I can do it. But what does the world hold beyond law? Then the buzzword was corporate. I said, why don't I go check him out? You know? So I went into the corporate world, and everybody was saying, it's impossible, you won't survive. All the key words to send me right there. I spent 9 years, learned what I could and learned what I wanted about corporate, determined for myself what corporate is. And I figured, okay, nothing much to write home about. I know corporate, what's next? Then I think I remembered the passion I had for law, and I went back to law. I still hadn't done my articles. So it was a problem. How do I overcome this? There was 2 years of articles. There was 6 months of pupillage. Now, in truth, part of the reason for going to the corporate sector was because at the time I needed to pass Latin and Afrikaans to be admitted. And I think you spoke about people who say, I walked that path, I'm not going to make it easier for you, you walk it too. That was the attitude regarding Latin. If I had to pass Latin, by golly, so are you. So it was sort of an out. I remembered why I did law after 9 years in corporate, and the thought of 2 years of articles wasn't particularly enticing. So I liked the shorter route of 6 months to go do pupillage. I'd been out of law for over 9 years. The first 3 months were the most torturous months of my entire life. I had no clue what they were talking about. I remembered substantive law, procedural law, Konja, which is what does it mean? But it was just too late, I was committed. I couldn't give up, and I could not fail. Did I know how not to fail? What must I do? No. But I was going to throw everything at it to pass this thing. And when I passed it, okay, I always say it was for myself, it wasn't for the world. I lie. It was in part for the world. Where would I put my face having failed? I would not be able to go anywhere. So in order to make sure that I can still associate with others, I had to pass this thing. I passed it, I started, and the person in me came through. Each time they said, no, women can't do this branch of law or can't be here. The moment you say that, it's a red flag to a bull, and that's exactly where I'm going, you know. And I've consistently done that. It does have its advantages, in a sense that the first impression in that room where I'm not welcome that I get is an adverse one. So I'm undermined before I even open my mouth. It's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage, and I take my time. Because when the time comes to sort that out, you have only one shot at it. When you discipline once, and you will not be undermined again.
Yes. Wow.
But in order to get where you want to, it's a fight, it's difficult, it's consistently that way. And no matter how long you've been in this, if you say you haven't gotten home one day and just flopped into bed and burst into tears, no, you're not doing the right thing yet. You need to go harder. You will cry, you will get frustrated. If you're unmarried, you'll think, maybe I should find myself a rich man, just get married and just leave this nonsense. Yeah, you'll go through it all, and it's okay. It's cathartic. It's part of the process, you know. But you wake up tomorrow morning and you give it another shot. That's all you can do. So good luck.
Great. Thank you so much, Mama Chlef. I think, as you said, I feel like I look at Pomama. Never not the stock fail. So the stock fail who like this. Even like Sister sometimes, but son, and just be ourselves.
Absolutely.
Why should we be what we're not? And have a chat. Because we're always, overwhelmed. Get the board packs, get the financials, get this. It is actually beautiful to be here. It's actually refreshing. I don't know about you, the audience. It's actually very refreshing. Because we're doing us. What do you? We're doing us today as ladies. Sis Gloria, your journey has been an interesting one. Please take us into your confidence and the lessons learned and the scars. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I guess at 62 is very complicated to say, tell me your journey. It's quite a long journey, but let me try and squash it in 5 to 10 minutes. I come from Cape Town. I'm married in Johannesburg. I studied everywhere. So my journey is everywhere. And the reason I'm mentioning Cape Town, and I'm trying to deal with a question, the first one, about what sounded like mentorship absence and all of that. Because when we do mention this word, we have a narrow line of it. I stayed in Cape Town. I studied in Eastern Cape because Cape Town didn't have schools necessarily. And so a family would ship us to Eastern Cape for schooling. That meant being in a train drive for 3 days before you get to your boarding school. You are 11 years old because you are doing Form 1, what we call Form 1. I don't know what you call it, you guys.
Grade 8.
Yes, yeah, you're very small. And that train leaves Sunday, Cape Town. It leaves on Sunday afternoon. But there's an interesting thing before you leave, because all the cooking that is done at home is in your name today. They are preparing your chicken to be in this basket. They are baking this bread. Everything that is smelling good in the house is yours. Because you will be all by yourself for 3 days in a train. And this is your meal for the next 3 days. And at some stage, there will be the excitement of taking you to the train station, and off you go. But back to mentorship and being carried by everybody else, just before we leave, there would be a whole bunch of women who stayed in Gugulethu, but they come from Langa Township. That time, Khayelitsha was not there. It was mainly Gugulethu and Langa. They come off this bus. We had double-decker buses. You see them from your home getting out there wearing church uniforms. They are singing their hearts out already. They are coming to your home. Their task is to come and pray for you. And being an 11-year-old, being a name mentioned in a prayer is quite a nice thing, because it's all about you. Mm-hmm. And some will take you as well, go with you to the train station, and off you go. Why am I mentioning this? Is that That 3 days of a train drive is 3 days of hell. There are big boys there. There are senior ones. There's all sorts of mischiefs in the train. Everything can actually go wrong. And but the point here is that you've been affirmed from your home already. When you get to that train, you feel like, I belong in this train. You dare me. I am Gloria. That's your attitude.
Yep.
That's what that whole drama was about. Affirm you from home. And so even when in the end, we ended up in a boys' school in Umtata, St. John's College, and we were 5 girls only in a school of boys. We felt we belong here. We never felt that this is not our place. And the reason we were there, they've taken the top students in maths, top 50 students in maths in the country, and sent them to that school. And so they couldn't say the 5 girls can't be sent. So we went there with arrogance, being the top 50 students in maths. And we forgot that we were girls. We just believed that this is our place too. And of course, boys will always come with all those things, but they knew that these girls are not touchable. And so our equipment was maths, actually. Challenge us on everything, but let's go and write exams. The reason I'm mentioning this thing is that all of us here, you have proved yourself somewhere. You need not prove yourself to no one anymore.
Yes.
It's not their place. Where you needed to prove yourself, you've done it. Then after that, you go, then I study, I finish, then I get married. This is my second learning I want to share. I get married at 26, which is quite small. But what that means, and this is very important, is that what your mother hadn't finished in grooming you is this mother-in-law who must finish off. At that time, you are a little girl. Somebody has to help groom you to be a woman, and that is left to that mother-in-law to do. It's a role that is full of tension and stress, mothers-in-laws and daughters-in-laws. There's just a war there which nobody can explain very well, but a war it is. But I'm explaining from my side. At 26, that's the woman who has to take you forward and groom you to be a woman. I'm not saying a lady. I'm saying a woman, because you've got to take your space in the world as a woman as well. In her case, I get groomed differently now. She was a community worker. Blind people, all sorts of things, you feeding scheme here. So I was ever traipsing around her, doing all these things. But in doing that, you are being groomed now by a lot of women. Omakuzwayo, those who come from Soweto, Omemuhlala, Omemotlana, Oma Emashinini. I can name them. Oma Sisulu. You are this little Makoti making coffee and tea for all these people. In that conversation, you are being groomed. You are being trained to be that kind of adult. Fast forward again. Because of that, there's no place you don't belong to. These people are feminists. They are politicians. Others are good wives. It's a whole concoction of them. Groomed they did. And you become this adult that we're not ashamed to say I'm an adult today because you've been groomed that way. Which then comes to my point where then I'm saying, maybe what we have done now, we've killed that. We are not offering these girls that part. We are nowhere to be found. We are not this cooking house of grooming people to be adults. And this grooming takes you all over the world. Wherever you go, you wish like saying, do you know who I am? Because I've been brought up by so and so and so and so. And so the issue, the last point I would like to say, I'm not going anywhere now to the work thing. It's just to say, in the midst of all of this, there is somebody who belongs, who feels like, this is my place too. When you go into a boardroom, which is where most of the hardships is found, you're trying to say something. I don't know if you've ever seen these old white men, when they want to show how they undermine you, you're sitting here, they look this way. And you get so hurt. No, because I come from where I come from. I'll have to wait for everyone to say their word. And back to the chairman, I still have something to say. Mindful that the chairman, his only job is to listen to the board members. He does not have the luxury to ignore you. And so you learn quickly that I don't know this guy. He doesn't know me too. But the chairman is forced to know me. And by the end of the day, he will know me. So don't leave that chairman still not knowing who you are. Call him to order in the most courteous way you can. By the end of that board meeting, he has heard from you twice or 3 times. It's very critical. Then there's a question about how do you do it all? How do you balance now? This is going to be my last piece because there's only so much time in a day. You can't. At the same time, you must. Because even that space is your territory. You've got to do it. So there's this big thing about marriage and doing things for this marriage thing. And one of those is most of our homes have got rituals, they've got things, we've got burials, we've got weddings. And we've got all these things that happen here. There's big cooking, for example, that must happen. And then you're trying to reconcile this cooking with your nails or your hair. It might burn in this fire. Whatever. Try to make it work because it's actually a beautiful thing at the same time. It's a beautiful thing at the same time. Of course, now there's some things to facilitate. I've just discovered that AMC has got big pots that are the size of the 3 foot. Yeah, and they have a plug to there's like 3 of these pots. One is flat and one is deep. So, yeah, no, you can set up your food now at 3 a.m., put it on the plug, go back to sleep. And by 8 o'clock, you're up, food is ready, during our time, we used to be in the fire by 3 a.m. And you're doing all of these things. You're wearing all these whatever. But the quality of the conversation that happens also in that fireplace is what makes you the person that we are. Maybe as a last point, Ipileng, I just want to say, there is no conflict between this thing of being married and a career. There isn't a conflict. There is a lot of communication that needs to happen. Your children must know where you are. If you can't go to his or her swimming lessons, tell your princess in the morning, Mommy is traveling. If you cannot be in this, your husband, you need to be accounted for, even if he was not a husband, like any roommate. You need to be accounted. You are not playing docile by telling him that I will be in Bloemfontein, I'm coming back tomorrow. That is what you do with a person you live with. It's just being accountable. And sometimes you're making too much maybe out of this, because while you are doing the cooking, hopefully he's serving you some wine at the same time. But I always say that we have to make sure that the tactics for the boardroom, the wars in the boardroom, are very different from the wars in the bedroom. Don't confuse them. Concentrate on the right enemy, and most of the times the enemy is not inside your house. It is outside. And thank you very much.
Wow.
Just to say that because of this background, I sometimes say that even when you watch the state capture, there isn't many of us there. There isn't many of us there. I'm talking women. And one of those reasons is that we are so afraid of crime. We are so afraid of bad things. We get embarrassed quickly. And we don't have the thick skin. And that's partly because what I think we have failed you guys, we are not visible mothers in your space where you must be preoccupied with, I cannot disappoint them. I cannot, if they pick up a Sunday Times paper, my name must not be there. That is a privilege we had. And maybe we must give it. Thank you.
Wow. Incredible. Doesn't this feel like encyclopedia, Angie? Huh? Encyclopedia. Because again, I'm going to keep going to this point. We do not have the exclusive books full of books that can tell us these stories. And thank God that we have the privilege to listen to you guys whilst you are alive. Can you imagine? It's a privilege, guys. It's a big blessing. And like, hey, I should have paid attention. So thank God that we actually have the privilege to listen to you guys whilst you are alive and in good health. Thank you so much. Fezziwe, yours is going to be a bit different, dear. I think if we've listened to our elders, right? And you know, in the different spheres of the legal fraternity, sometimes you ask yourself, okay, what do I need to what extent do I have to make these sacrifices, right? And sacrifices mean, if for instance you are chasing the hours, because I get you charge per hour, billable time. And only this case that you're working on, you've got your KPIs, and then go exco, they'll be asking you, so how much did the client pay? And then on the one hand, you also have to decide, okay, I want to go into a relationship. You know, there's a nice gentleman that I've met, and this poor gentleman maybe might not understand your challenges because of maybe the environment in which you operate in.
Yes.
How do you tackle that? Like, what do we do as a young, up-and-coming leader? Yeah.
I think what you're asking is very important. It has to do with, I think it has to do with balancing personal life and business. Maybe what I can say is that maybe in balancing, it's important to have a support structure. It starts with the support structure at home. For example, I have kids, so I have a very solid support structure. That's why I'm able to be in the leadership of M&S. A support structure is in two folds. It's a support structure at home where your parents or your partner or your husband or your friend or your cousin is supporting you, whether they're taking care of your kids or they're taking your car for service, anything, but something that will keep you sane. It's very important so that you can focus at work. And then the other support structure is in the work environment. It is also important because we must first acknowledge that I'm a female, I'm not a male. I must not act like a man. So it's important for the company or the colleagues or the leadership to give you that support structure, to say, oh, first the schools are opening tomorrow, so you're not coming to work. That's a support structure which has nothing to do with work. So I think that to me, it's so important. And fortunately, I do experience that. If I want to go home to take my kids to school, I do that. I just report and say, guys, I won't be in tomorrow. On Monday, schools are opening. My colleagues will do the same thing. And that is very important to females. It's empowering to females. And then you are able to focus on your work. So I think it's about balancing. It's about balancing the two. Even though Ma'am Gloria said you can try to balance, but yeah, it's doable somehow. So I think the support at work is very important, and the support at home.
Great, thank you so much, Fizzy. A big round of applause. And then to Medlib, the most important, as they say, last but not least, because Judge is going to close for us. I think what we've managed to achieve today in the conversations that we've had, we have covered so much. We've covered so much because we thought we were going to ask boom, boom, boom questions. But listening to all of you, and I'm thinking, okay, we've covered business, we've covered home, we've covered background. We'll probably close with just one technical question, which I'll come to. Ma'am Klepu, I'd like us to just touch on the lessons learned out of your journey. The lessons learned, because the lessons learned are so important for many of us who are coming after you. What are those lessons that we can learn from? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm really excited to be here, especially seeing so many young women amongst us, and I still feel that there's hope, we are getting somewhere. My journey actually is like, do you know a snakes and ladder game? I always say my journey was like a snake and ladder. I ended up here because of diversions along the way. But each time I fell, I managed to pick myself up and make sure that I'm going to do something different, and I'll still pursue my goals. Originally, I went to school, to high school in Morris Isaacson, just to give you a little background about myself. And it was during that time when black consciousness was real, Then I went to TEFLOP. TEFLOP, originally I was supposed to do BCom. And I thought I'll be an accountant or something. Then, this orientation week, we didn't know each other. We didn't, others come from other, Limpopo. And then we go into this big math class. And then they tell us about statistics. Then they say to us, you know what, if you pass statistics in the first 3 years, stats 1, then mean you are a genius. I went out there, very confused. So the following day, we decided to go and check out a law class. And when we went in there, they didn't scare us that much. Then I decided, I'm sticking around here. the way, at home, they know me to be doing BCom. I think they knew, they knew after 6 months, or this one is doing something different, you know. But the beauty about it is that law was me. I didn't know. And we were only very few women, I think 3 in Teflop. One was the late Duli Mukhatle, you know, 2 of them, Judge Onlefe, you know, in a class of maybe 50 males. And our goal was to make sure that they feel us. We always made sure that, you know, classes will start maybe at 8, you know, the morning classes at 8. Now I'll come in with my heels at 8:10, right? Wah, wah, wah. Go to the front. Then everybody, I'll disturb the class, everybody will see that, oh, there she comes again. Because I wanted people to feel me, feel my existence. And I believed that you need to feel me. Make sure that where you go, people will see you and feel you. So, unfortunately, Teflop was one of those universities, record time, it was a dream. Because every time, after 3 months, there's a strike, the whole year is gone. You know, I think I ended up spending 8 years for a 6-year degree. Because every time we were on strike, you know. But it really taught me to survive. To fast forward, then I graduated my LLB in May. I think it was, I don't even remember, it was in May, over the weekend. Then fortunately, on Tuesday, I was supposed to start my articles with, it was a black firm. And the very first day, when I was saving articles, they sent me to court. I had no clue. I didn't know how to say anything in court. Secondly, the case was about malicious damage to property. I didn't even know what is that, you know. Then my principal said, you'll go. It was somewhere in Tleprefir. I still remember that. I arrived there. Remember, during our time, Afrikaans was still the spoken language in our courts. Morisa Zexin was anti-Afrikaans. I had no clue. But what they taught me, make sure that you are early every time, everywhere. Go early and assess the situation and know your audience. I went there early, went to the magistrate, introduced myself. Oh, I'm Kathleen Matolo. She said, you know, why are you looking down? In Afrikaans, by the way. Then I said, you know, I'm here to do a case, malicious damage to property. Then he could see that I'm really tense. I'm really afraid. I just didn't know what I'm going to do. Then he says to me, are you a fan of Orlando Pirates? I said, yes, and I was lying. I said, yes, because I grew up in Chablani. Chablani, it was up the Swallows. It was Swallows, you know. Yes, I know. He said, okay, tell me about, you know, the game. Fortunately, I understood football, you know. I said, but, you know, Orlando Pirates is actually up there because they're winning. Then he called the prosecutor, who was a lady, young as I was, a white lady. She was as scared as I was. It was her first day, you know. And she said, okay, meet your counterpart. I think it was Denise or something like that. She's looking at me. We don't even know who's supposed to start in court, whether it's me or her. You know, she said, okay, let's go. We go into court. My clients are sitting there. I mean, clients expect service. Then I'm sitting there, the prosecutor. So I want to stand up because I wanted to finish, you know. No, this is the state case. The state must start. Oh, okay. Then she starts speaking in Afrikaans. Then I want to say, no, I don't understand. I don't understand. She says, I can't understand Afrikaans. Please. Then I want to cry. Then the magistrate says to me, okay, the interpreter will assist, you know. Then it went on, but we kept on saying, objections, objections every time, I was speaking, she was saying objections to me, and it was a confusion. But one way or the other, my client got acquitted, and my principal was really happy with me. He said, that's why I put you in the deep end, Then the second case, it was rape. It's a rape case, right? So I went there, and we went on, and my client was convicted. So I'm walking back with the mother, of my client. The first thing, I rushed into the office of my principal. I'm so happy he has been convicted. Until the mother is looking at them. Because I did, rape for me, I was not supposed to be defending somebody who's doing rape. I said, I'm so happy he's convicted. And shame, the poor mother looks at me. My principal said, K.O. But just to fast forward, after that, we together with my partners, I think, as women, we decided to form a women-owned firm. And we told ourselves we are going to train women attorneys, and only males will be messengers. And we did it.
Yeah?
We did it. I mean, I'm almost 28 years in practice now. I'm only now having males now because of diversity issues, But, and they know where I stand, So another thing that, when Ms. Robert was speaking about the boardroom issues, I was thrown into a deep end. I think maybe because I talked too much, by the BLE in the law societies. I think I was one of the first 2 women to serve as a councillor in the Law Society of Northern Provinces. The very first day I arrived, it was these white males in dark suits. And I'm looking at them. I mean, the chairperson of the council, it was some Emil Boshoff. And I'm this, I'm sitting there. I keep on raising my hand, and they're not, I want to raise an issue about, procedure and everything. And he never even, So the following time, I came wearing a pink dress.
Yeah.
I just came in. I was wearing a pink dress. I said, to hell with these black things. I'm wearing a pink dress because obviously he has to see me in a pink dress. Then what he did, he started doing the same thing of not looking at me. I said, Chairperson, I think you can see color. Pink, you can see me. That's when they started taking me seriously. So I always say to people, please make sure that you know your story. Be early where you are going, so that at least you understand your audience, you understand where you are going. Because have you ever seen when you come in late, how rattled you become? So make sure you are early. People will respect you. You actually are doing yourself so much good, because you sit down and relax. As they come in, you watch. Oh, okay. Oh, I can size this one. And it feels so good. But to fast forward, I believe in collaboration with other women. I collaborate. You were talking about Stockfells. I have 3 Stockfells, different ones. And all of us, I mean, my daughter is here. I'm trying to teach them that you have to collaborate with women. And those Stockfells, she normally says, all those things. Because I associate with everybody. Yeah. And I feel so great in mixing with every woman. Because that's how my mother taught me. My mother taught me that you have to collaborate with other women to understand where you're going. So if you don't collaborate, you are living in silo, you won't grow. Wow. So, and unfortunately, the youngsters, you call them to a meeting, they don't want. You'll find them at the shopping malls instead of going somewhere where they can learn something. So you must learn to be able to collaborate with other women. And that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Wow. That was amazing. You see, so the Stockfellow, they do work. And I like the fact that out of everything that they've said, authenticity is at the center of it. Why should we be men? We don't want to be like them. So why should I conduct meetings like them? Why should I dress like them? What for? We don't have to, right? So I think I like the authenticity that comes across, starting from DPP. And I think now it's important that we allow people to ask questions, a Q&A session before we hand over to our judge to be able to close for us. Any questions, Mosa?
I really appreciate, and I must be honest, I feel full. That's what this session has done for me. I feel so I could actually sit here until tomorrow listening to these stories, because every speaker has just reaffirmed that it's okay, I'm normal, and it's real, and it's manageable. And the stories about the boardrooms, first of all, I want to say, I was saying to my sister earlier, I was watching you and I thought you are all sitting in your power. It's visible, like it's actually beautiful. You know, and it's such an honor to watch it from here, because I don't know that you see, well, maybe you don't see it. But the boardroom story is very powerful, the boardroom stories. And I just wanted to share an experience as a young person. My first board was, I was 32, and I walked into a room of older black men only. And I remember I was wearing a polka dot dress. I was very cute. Polka dot dress, pearl necklace, the works. And for maybe the first 5 board meetings, there was a gentleman who referred to me consistently as Ngwana O. In the meeting, every time he referred to me, he used to say, Ngwana O this, Ngwana O that. And every meeting, I would look around and I would see the faces of all the other board members. And you could see them look down, some embarrassed and others smirk. The chairman, no one ever said anything. And I was so desperate for somebody to do something. I was scared. I didn't know if I can react. My tears would come up, but I knew that they couldn't fall out. And I just didn't know what to do. So I'd speak to other women that I know, and some would say, no, tell the chairman he must do something about it. And other people would say, no, tell this man when to get off in the meeting. But I wanted to tell the story because I remember that the biggest challenge that I had is he was definitely older than my mom. And so I sat there as a board member, but the truth was, when that meeting adjourns and we walk out this door, he is still an elder. And so I was struggling internally because I thought, I want to tackle this, but I am all of these things. I am a child to him. I am a board member. I am a professional. I'm all of those things, and in that moment, it all gets challenged. And so I asked everybody for advice, and one day I was sitting with my sister and a friend of hers, and it's a gentleman, and I was telling him the story. And he said to me, you know what, don't be rude to him. Wait for a moment. One day he's going to be confused in the meeting, and then say to him, let this child help you. And so from that day, I started sitting next to him in board meetings, waiting, like literally waiting for this man to mess up. One day he did. He was confused in the meeting, and I raised my hand and I said, Chair, I think this older gentleman is confused, and I'd like to assist him to understand where we are in this meeting. And so I was sitting next to him and I said, go to page 16. Go to paragraph 4, do this, do that. And then I said, do you understand where we are now? Okay. And then I said, Chair, you can take your meeting back. And from that day, actually when he walked out the boardroom, he walked up to me and he said, I respect you now. I was terribly offended by that statement because it was abuse. But I was just sharing it because all these stories are so true, but you are everything in every experience. You're not just a board member, but you have to find your voice somehow. And I appreciate the points made. Wear color. Make the point. It's fine if they turn their back, but at some point make sure that you're heard, because you learn those things through experience, sometimes painfully, and always seeking counsel helps. So that's what these kind of sessions are, and thank you very much.
Awesome. Any questions? I'm going to go right at the back. The last two. Yes, at the back. At the back. Oh, I'll come to you. I just want to give others a chance, especially at the back there, because they haven't really. Yes.
Hi. Is this on? Yeah. Hi. Namaste. So this one's for Advocate Selo. I think so. So mine's a question. So when you're talking about knocking down doors and just getting in there, you know, so a lot of that has happened in my life, and it is happening in my career. But I'm reaching a point of transition where I need to also start influencing and changing minds at a higher strategic level. And my abrasive personality, and we're being called the B word quite a lot of times in my career because of the way I speak and I handle situations, because I know what I need to have done and I need it done this way. And so now I'm at a point where I may need to take a step back and understand my deliverance of things and how I need to go about doing that. And I need to be able to do that. I still want to influence a room, I still want to influence minds, but I don't want to isolate myself from people because people just don't like me, and people don't like the way I deliver the advice that I give. So how do I merge that? How do I keep my authenticity to be able to still do my work, to be able to still advise correctly and advise without trying to be liked, but also be liked? I don't know. I don't know. Thank you.
I think I appreciate your difficulty because it's real. You know, sometimes it gets so difficult out there that by the time the woman that is you exits the other end, either the one who went in doesn't recognize this one or this one. So there's always that difficulty within yourself. How don't I lose myself in this madness and still retain the position that I want to? The story she told, it is that one shot I spoke about. You know, you have to find your time, appreciating that it only happens once. And sometimes it means that you must endure abuse, but it's because you're biding your time, so that when you sort it out once and for all. From that day onwards, then we are on an even keel. Secondly, you must use your own strength. You know, sometimes character of strength is something to lean on. Use your own strength. Where you had to fight around that room, make space for others who perhaps are less abrasive than you, more cultured than you, more elegant than you, and will not perhaps stoop as low as you are prepared to. You accept that that's a reality. If I have the strength too, I have 5 others I can pull in who perhaps can't. I'll do it on their behalf. There's security in numbers. So whereas I'll do the dirty work, their presence might just help. They'll prop me up the day I need them to prop me up. So you transition when you are sure you kept the door open behind you. Do you have sufficient support to prop you up for you perhaps to just sit down, kick off your shoes, and just be a lady for a change? You know? but it's an ongoing challenge. And remember as well that perhaps it might never stop, because you always have to be developing. There comes a time where you have to actually check your own surrounds and say, have I overstayed my welcome? Is it time to push myself up yet another level? If you go up another level, the challenges start all over again. Remember, this is a new lot. They don't know, you know. So the less you have to go through it all. So it may very well be that you just don't change. It's the way it's going to be for the rest of you. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
I can add to what she's saying. You know, what I found very assisting in my being me, you know, I believe in myself. You must believe in yourself and be comfortable with yourself. And one thing that I've learned is to have a conversation with myself every day. Look at what did I do wrong? How can I improve? And in the morning, don't do the same mistake again. So you must be able to look back and say, but at least I could have done this. If you are not sure, bounce it with somebody. When you bounce it with somebody, another woman, it's not because you are a failure. And you may find you were right. So learn to depend on other women. We have walked the same journey that you are walking now. So there's not, you shouldn't be shy to ask for advice. Am I in the right direction? You know, and that's why I'm saying my journey was a snake's and ladder. I fell and came back and fell and came back, and I didn't care a damn. You know. Thanks.
That's attitude. That's how it should be. I think there's a question. Yes, next is
mine is actually addressed to Kathleen. Being a conveyancer at MNS, 2016, and struggling to, in a point where now you are the chair of Law Society, as women, as being put on to not having any work that we do. I mean, 80% of us are sitting on government work. I think Pretty will sit on me, will agree with me. And the fact that the banks are not giving us work. We are constantly looking for work from banks where, I mean, we open trust accounts, we do investments on behalf of the banks, but we're not getting work from the banks. The bank still gives the white company the work. What would you do for us as the chairperson of the Law Society, and being the Law Society that sometimes I feel that the Law Society is not actually assisting attorneys. It's more and more the work of attorneys are moving away from attorneys, are moving to trust companies. If you think about estates, when you think about companies that are advising, is that law, as usual as conveyancing and whatever, it's literally moving away from us. What, as the chairperson of the Law Society, what role are you playing to us in putting the fact that the banks has to give recognition to us as conveyancers, as black companies, or as law-owned law firms? Because really, I've had issues where I went to the deeds office and I get to be asked by white people to say, do you know that this line is for conveyancers? And it is offending. I've gone through with white companies. The other part that I will say is that as MNS, we've done some work for human settlement and would call meetings to tell the truth. And I've seen some white conversations, actually emails, that came out to be saying that who is doing this, especially on RDP's companies, to say the condescending emails that we get from our male counterparts to say there is no such program where human settlement is appointed a black firm to do or to run as a project manager. I've been doing this work for a very long time, it's actually total, and I'm very proud of what I do as a conveyancer, and I know my work. But what I've realized is that more and more as black conveyancers, we are only relying, not even relying, is that we get government work. Private work is not coming to us. No matter what happens, we constantly are struggling for private work. Private work keeps on going to the same people constantly, and the banks are not coming up, but we are giving the banks the Section 78 interests. We are putting money, or they're getting the interest from us. So what should we be doing in this kind of manners? I mean, you've got your BCA, you've got all those, but they are literally not working for black firms.
Yes.
You know,
that's the last one. I'll shorten that question.
Unfortunately, our profession, it's one of the worst transformed, you know. And we had to come, that's why there are no law societies, that's why we had to come with a new act called the Legal Sector, the Legal Practice Act, which actually we demanded when we negotiated. It is a negotiated act. It's not. It's not. You know. Is not what we want, but we had to negotiate. But we wanted the profession to mirror the demographics of our country. Because if we say, because I mean, our profession is white, let's be honest. So we were given 3 years to try and turn this around. One of the things that we did is to come with, because the BEE as it stands, the generic BEE, is not even working for you guys. It's not even working for us. So we decided to go for a legal sector code, which is very biased towards black women, black femmes, and make sure that the state and include the private sector in it. But unfortunately, the time that we were given is very short. But it's, the code is still with the DTI. I think it will be gazetted sometime in November. But you need to make sure that that code sees the light of the day. Because all the whites who are voting so furiously now to be in the Legal Practice Council, they want to sabotage that code. So as I'm looking at you now, I'm wondering, have you voted? You know, because if you don't do that, we are going to reverse the gains that we did. You know, we're speaking with Advocate Mehlape now. He said, you know, I'm chairing the Legal Council, and my deputy is Advocate Platt, and we shook. We actually shocked those men that we are going to do it. But now we need you to support us to make sure that that code sees the light of the day. I mean, we managed to get pupils to be paid when they do training. But nobody ever thought of it. The people, if you become an advocate, you want to people, now we make sure that you get paid, at least a stipend, to be able to go home, to buy toiletry, and, you know. So it's a fight that we are continuously doing. But don't lose hope. I'm very optimistic. Maybe and we have the department, the minister who's very supportive. Unfortunately, lawyers, we always like this independence, you know. We don't want government to do anything for us. Our independence is very biased towards us, and not knowing that we need to collaborate with government to assist us. So don't lose our hope. We can chat out of from here, then I'll tell you where we are going. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mehlep. Advocate Mehlep would like to also add.
Yeah, and mine is going to be different. I think it's way past your lunchtime now, so I'm not going to waste our time with niceties. We said we were going to talk. Let's talk.
Yes.
As an advocate, and I see my fellow advocates there, no one knows about briefs more than we do. You in firms, yes, it gets difficult and what, but even if business is not good, you are paying your bills at the end of the month. With us, that brief doesn't come. I don't know what you're going to pay your bills with. We are now, how many years since democracy? 20, I've lost count, 20 whatever year. For 26 years or whatever it is, 25, 27. It sounded more like 2011, it feels like that. We have been saying the banks are not giving us, they are not giving us briefs, they are closing us out, we've done that. At your age, just turn this on its head. Say you have been looking at the wrong solution, you've been thinking wrong. They owe you nothing. Why must they develop you to become the best you can be so that you can outclass them in that department? They won't. Trust me, they won't. We've banged on that door, we've sung that song. Take it from us, it don't work. Now that we have the MNS little, what's that organization? Stockfell. We now have an MNS Stockfell. Yeah. Maybe let's start talking and talking differently. Yes. Some of us who've been at this game for long, when you come up with something intelligent that perhaps is, 3 digits above my IQ, instead of saying, oh, I never thought of that. I said, I've been there, we tried it all. Don't listen to us. You own this moment. You tell us where it is we went wrong, we got it wrong, and why it is you are still confronted with the difficulties we were confronted with. It doesn't make sense. So I would like us to start talking about, Mrs. Lepo says that the legislative framework is there, the code is there. I want to debate with you, what more do you need for you to go out there and get what's yours? The environment sounds like it's there. What are you doing? You know, ask Tomato, ask Mr. Robem, it's no giving. Why must we be given? Just go get it. And if it means you break a bone, or if it means you sprain your ankle in the process, just keep moving, go get it. I really would want us to change the narrative. No one is going to give you anything, and each time they don't give you, I'm going to applaud. Maybe it will help you stand on your feet. Thank you.
I think Clara would also like to comment. In fact, I feel privileged, guys. I don't know about you guys, because you know it's not always that you find panelists who'd say, I'll also add that, let me say something, because in most cases, you know, you talk, and then of course they present and they sit and they'll keep looking at the time to say, oh, so what I love about today, clearly we're talking about real stuff in here. So thank you so much. Ms. Clara, over to you.
Thank you. I thought, not being a lawyer, let me speak.
Yeah.
It has been a general complaint, not just the banks, everywhere, that the black legal practitioners are not getting work.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere. So if we just take the banks for a bit, because I think they still need to do something. The CEOs and board things are not going to help you in terms of talking to them, because the work is being given in the middle there. By the time it comes to the board, it's done. So one way the Law Society there is what you call the chairman of Social and Ethics Committee in most boards. That chairman, and that's one I liked to chair a lot because it sounds so flimsy. But that's one where you rearrange and shake the trees, because all of those questions settle there. So I think first you can corner the chairmen of the Social and Ethics Committee of the big 4 banks at least. So that's really 4 meetings. And each one of them must be under pressure to deliver on this, because everybody in the bank reports to him or her on this matter of where are the black lawyers, where are the black accounting firms, where is your management, and so on. When I was the chairman of the Social and Ethics Committee in Nedbank was level 2, so you'd think it's doing well, until you say, let me see each division as to what level it is. So you find level 8 in a wrong place. And it so happens to be that place where you guys are supposed to be hired. And so that chairman of the Social and Ethics Committee needs to strip the bank and go straight to where these issues are sitting, because he's a big boss. He's quite big. Other than the chairman, he's got a voice there. And they don't want to be embarrassed by this. So they will respond properly. But the second one I would like to say is that, which is where now as our age group, should I count you in? Where we have failed, I think, we have not given, I don't know, a strong instruction or a strong mandate to the professionals behind us. A conversation that says, good for you, you come from St. Anne's, merit and all, routine, top class in Wits. Your job is a simple one. You're going to make it work for blacks. You're going to make it work for women. You are climbing on the shoulders of people. Merit or no merit. This job of transformation is very far. We were privileged because we were instructed osmosis because we had the political women on top of us in exile, in jail, and everywhere. We understood exactly. We had the emotion about it. And we did the right things. You'll find that that layer of women is extremely conscious of not doing the right thing. I'm not saying we're perfect, but there was a lot of people that we were afraid to disappoint. We could not afford to sit in front of Albertina Sisulu and waffle about what you're doing as a professional. Even though she's not a lawyer, even though she's not an accountant, she looked at you with the stern eyes like she is one. We were privileged in that sense because there was still a bit of that kind of layer of leaders. But I think when it came to us, we've dropped the ball now. You guys are not afraid of us. You guys, you love us, but scared. I want the right word, that it is correct to be scared of somebody in life. Because I know there are lawyers here, they will say, no, that's unconstitutional or something. But there's that reference point which must matter to you, that if I don't. So what we haven't done, and because we've gotten lost in the mentorship thing or in the conversation thing, is a conversation that says, today, I, Glorious Robert, I'm saying, I'm so happy that you're so bright. I'm so happy you've worked so hard. But let me tell you something. It's not about you now. Wherever you are, you're going to look out for this. Because in these very same departments where the black legal firms are not getting jobs, there's black legal professionals. Junior, there might be, but if they know that they have to account to the bigger person, which is then us as a collective. I'm starting to talk like ANC now. But if that one legal person in the Department of RMB knows that at some stage he's going to have to account to this lot about why is it in RMB specifically we don't get the jobs when you are in that department. We have to almost behave as if we have deployed people even though we haven't deployed them. We have to behave like we have deployed people because we want every place to be occupied. And it must be occupied with the same noise. And by the time she comes and speaks to the chairman of the social and ethics, the noise is there. That's really what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think to respond to Advocate Mahlape's concern is that we can knock on the doors, but the problem is that we get excluded from the beginning. When it comes to the RFPs being issued, they will say the experience that they're asking for and all that already exclude you as a black firm.
But
So
then you
it's
see
not
that sorry,
about
if I may, that's the thing. We know where the tricks lie to keep us down. I think we are struggling because we are trying to address those issues individually. Perhaps it's time to try it collectively. There's nothing new they can teach us about how to keep us out. What we need to learn is how do we find solutions together to deal precisely with that. Absolutely, that's very real, and it's been happening for the last 20, God knows how many years.
So maybe to Feziwe, Zianda, and Kanabo, it looks like we have to talk about the M&S Stockville.
Stockville, absolutely.
Because we are here to come up with solutions, and in fact, as you close, we would be wanting to hear whether we're only just here to enjoy lunch. Of course, the conversation was great, but we'd also like to hear from you guys around something tangible that we think would come out of here, because I think there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done, but as you said, are we integrated, are we collaborative enough in tackling the same thing? Yeah. So we'll be looking to you guys when you close, because I think you'll be doing the vote of thanks and then doing summary. So I'm just putting it out there to say we'll be looking to you for something tangible, because these are women of doers as well, right? And as Sister Gloria said, we must be scared. We don't want to be sitting here in August again. And then they say, but don't tell us that we're going to be talking about something that has got no tangible outcome to it. So as M&S, I think it's a great opportunity for us to look into that. I think in closure, I would like to, of course, hand over to Justice. Please, Membele, would like to hear from you, because you are going to be our making closing remarks. And I think you've heard it all. So I'm sure your mind is racing. Right, I'm sure your mind is racing. So we'll look to you and would like you to please come up and just address us as we close. And then we'll hand over to you, Kanabo, to close with tangibles, eh? We're talking way forward. Okay. Yes. Alibongwe lama kosikazi alibongwe malibongwe 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 kosikazi malibongwe igama lama kosikazi malibongwe 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 malibongwe.
Good afternoon. Let me respect the elders in the room and say I honor you. The hard work you've put in to be where you are today continues to inspire many. I stand here and I'm standing on the shoulders of strong women who walked in front of us and showed us the way. I stand here because there were women one day who said, nothing can stop me from achieving what I've set myself up to achieve. I stand here because there are women who achieved in circumstances that were even more difficult than the circumstances that we find ourselves in today. You are here today because there's a woman out there who's whispered something into you and gave you confidence that I can make it. And you can hold on to that every day. You can hold on to that hope that if Ausmahlapi, if Metloria, if Medlepu, if Fezile can make it. or if they've succeeded to be where they are today, what can stop me from achieving all these? Nothing at all. I've already said that they made it in circumstances that were much difficult than what you find yourselves in today. And the environment was not friendly. The environment was quite hostile, but they stood their ground. They told themselves that nothing is going to stop me. And they set themselves up and said, I am going to be my own liberator. Nobody else is going to come and rescue me from this situation. You have to look around and tell yourself that nobody is going to come to me and give me handouts, because they aren't there. Black women are double outsiders. They are being kept out because they are women. Secondly, because they are black. And should they find themselves inside the room, they will have to adjust how they do things to conform into the culture, into the dominant culture. That's what often happens. Once they break the door open and they find themselves into the room, they will then, most of the times, for them to be heard, they will then have to adjust the way their communication styles. Most of the time, they are expected to adjust their communication styles. They are expected to abandon the manner in which they've always been doing things to adjust to the dominant culture that they found themselves in. And it often becomes very difficult to survive in any environment as a black woman. I always said to people that, white males, I said they are double outsiders because firstly, they are black, secondly, they are not white men. You see, everything out there was set up to, most of what we see was set up to benefit white men. White men don't have to do much. They can just enter a room just by their presence in the room. Someone recognizes potential in them. You as a black woman, you have to wait for the opportunity to say something for someone to realize that there might be potential here. Do you understand what I'm saying? White males don't have to work much to claim any space. They can walk into the room because of the unconscious bias that is there. When they walk in, people believe they are competent. When you walk in as a black woman, people believe you are incompetent until you prove yourself. I don't know how many of us have had to go through that. You always have to, those of you who watched my interview in April, one of the competitors in that position, my colleague, said I shouldn't be appointed to the position because I'm young. In his words, I'm a child. I'm 48 years, for your benefit. I'm 48 years old, for your benefit. In my past life, I ran an organization where I led about 400 people, and even more. I had been in a number of boards. I chaired a number of boards. I've had exposure to leadership. I ran my own practice as an attorney at some point. So what's there that I could not do, that my white colleague felt that I was basically too young to perform. What I'm trying to say to you is that you never, as a black woman, walk into a room and find a red carpet laid down for you. You have to work hard to claim that space. Unfortunately, this is the environment that we find ourselves, the ecosystem or the environment that we find ourselves in is designed in that manner. For now, we're hopeful that by the time this generation comes and there are those others that come after them, everything would have changed. It would not have to be so difficult for black women to find their voice and be heard. I said, I'm able to speak today because another brave black woman went ahead of me and made her voice heard. And that gave me confidence to believe that I can do it. This can happen. And the other thing is, as black people or as women, we need to call each other out when we do wrong. It helps. It builds the character and the professionalism that is expected in us. We need to account and we need to be held accountable. If you aren't held accountable for your actions, you build a culture in you that everything, however wrong it may be, you will be able to get away with it. People must be reminded that when they do wrong, they will be called out and be held accountable for their actions. And you also must build that culture in us. And that starts from when we are being mentored to really take it seriously, and at some point to go down and even do the work that we think it's too low for the people that we are. Ms. Robe spoke about what happens when you, what happened when she was being taught into Makoti responsibilities. Now I was married to Basotho Tseseng in the rural village of Tseseng Kotwat. The other day there was a traditional wedding and they slaughtered 4 cattle and a number of sheep. All of us were sitting in a room and an old granny walked in and she said with her hands on her back, and I was like, what have I done wrong? And someone said, no, Kiyo, pointing at me. And then this old granny just, mind you, at that time I was already an executive in an organization where I was. This old granny then said to me, close again, okay. I had to, then I followed her to the kraal where there were intestines for 2 cattle and 5 sheep. And I was like, and she then said, Wena le makgutshwane le tlo hama malana. It was in winter. And the sun had just set. It was so cold, it was freezing out there. Those of you who know, some of you should, those that are on Facebook should have seen that it snowed, it was snowing last week. That's where the Mount Oxosis is, you know. It was so cold, and I went on my knees, I tried halfway the first one. I had to be strategic and find a way to deal with this. I then stood up, and as I was rising up, there was another old lady who came, and he said, and I said, as she was coming, he said, you know, I was so grateful to that woman. I went to my car, I gave her my new pairs of shoes as a way of saying, thank you, you saved me. Because it was quite difficult, but I tried. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes you are being asked to do tasks that would be quite difficult to execute. And it is part of training. It is part, Rejamala Muhoduhak, and I'm expected to clean it if I'm with my kids alone. I know how to do that because I acquired that skill that day. So what I'm trying to say is there are times when you are expected to go down and do the most difficult of the tasks and the assignment. You don't throw away that opportunity. Grab it and take it as a way of affirming yourself and learning. Ms. Glepu just told you that her first experience in court was quite traumatic, but she came out with a victory. She learned. Next time, she would not repeat the same mistakes that she did the first time she appeared in court. What I'm trying to say is, with every encounter, it's an opportunity for you to learn and perfect yourself to become the best that you can be. Let us learn. Every day is an opportunity to learn. I had actually prepared something. I thought I was going to speak, but now because the way the presentations went, I felt I needed to speak from the heart. and I thought I needed to speak from the heart and speak to issues that people are confronted with daily. And most of the times we lose an opportunity as if there are, I've heard that there are CEOs in here. We lose an opportunity to spot talent even when it's in the room with us, because we have things that blind us. We expect talent to be packaged in a certain manner. When it's not packaged in the manner that we think the talent should come in, we turn away from it and end up stuck with people who aren't going to help the cause. Give yourself time. Put stereotypes and prejudices aside and deal with people, understand their circumstances, their experiences, because people are not the same. And when you deal with them, you have to deal with them according to their unique, or according to the unique factors that describe them. There might be women, there might be black, but there's other factors that affect them as individuals. They've had experiences that differ. And as a manager or as a leader, you will then have to identify them within them to be able to talk to their inner person. And in short, I'm saying to all of us, you're saying you are starting this Stokvel and starting a platform to communicate all the time. We have a responsibility to hold each other by the hand, walk up, because actually in all sectors, black women, it's like they are gliding up the slope with boulders coming down on them. And every time they're trying to take a step, there's a rock that is falling on their head. You end up losing the grip of what you were trying to hold on to, because you have to protect your head so the rock doesn't have to crush your head. And when you try to protect your head, you are down where you started. We get sidelined and sidetracked by things that are not supposed to be on our way. There are so many things that distract us, that hold us back, that shouldn't be there. Like I'm saying, while you're trying to climb up, there's a huge rock coming down, and when you had thought that I've held fast to this, now you have to protect your head. Once you try to protect your head from the rock that is coming down, you lose grip and you are down at the bottom.
Wow.
So let's learn to support each other.
Yes.
In as much as we have to hold each other accountable, we also need space to talk about what affects us directly as individuals, because our experiences are unique. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Kanabo
much.
would like to hand over to, is it Kanabo?
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Justice Mbele. I'm going to hand over to Kanabo now to do our closing speech and on behalf of Feminists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you. Mine is a very simple task. Mine is just to give a vote of thanks. And I think I appreciate the fact that, Ibileng, you were able to keep it authentic, because that was the objective for all of us when we were planning it. Zianda, myself, and Feziwe. Our main thing was to be able to have a platform where, whilst we are speaking about issues that affect us, but we also celebrate each other. And we also remind each other that there's beauty in being a woman. We shouldn't be shy about it. We should embrace it and enjoy it. And hearing the panelists' experiences and how they've overcome, I'm certainly grateful that I was able to be a part of this event. But I'm also grateful for the fact that you were able to make the sacrifices that you have made for all of us. And it makes our journey that much more simpler. And we are scared of you. Mea Gloria, we are scared of you. We do respect you. And you know, we also want to emulate you. You know, we sit down sometimes in our little corners and we think, one day I want to be like a Mea Gloria. And today is testament of the fact that I can be like a Mea Gloria. I can become an SC. I can become the chairperson of the Law Society. I can become a director, you know. And I can open spaces that other people might not have known that they could open. So we thank you for that. And I thank you, ladies, for also being genuine and taking in the event and experiencing it not only to say that, you know, we're going to start speaking about the challenges which are real, but also speak about how we can overcome, we can learn, and just be inspired by everything. So thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Zianda. This is Zianda's event, really. She had sleepless nights about this, but thank you very much for the organization, for what you've done. It's a very well-organized event, and I'd like to give you just a round of applause for it. Well done, Zianda. I'd also like to thank Feziwe. You know, Feziwe is the only female director at MNS at the moment. And she's also opened paths for us, opened doors for us that ordinarily would have not have been opened. It's nice to have a feminine touch to everything, and thank you very much, Feziwe, for also being a part of the organization. But I think I got ahead of myself. Let me follow protocol properly. I'd also like to thank the Deputy Public Protector in her absence. I know she wanted to be here, but we thank her for taking the time out and also sharing her experience with us. So thank you to her. We've got small gestures for our panelists as well that we'd just like to give as a form of our appreciation. Advocate Mahlape, SC, thank you. We also spoke to you on many occasions when we're planning this event, so thank you for also just taking out the time and
it's really a pleasure
assisting us in the planning. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Mrs. Lepu, siyabonga kakhulu. We thank you also for opening the doors for us in the Law Society and in other areas of law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Gloria. No, we respect you. We appreciate you. And thank you for all you've done. Thank you. Mayor Ipiling, thank you for the manner in which you actually coordinated this program and facilitated it. It was a success also because of all your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our Justice Mbele, siyabonga ma. Thank you for taking out the time, for joining us. Feziwe. Once again, thank you to the audience that's also been listening in online. We really appreciate that you were able to take part and listen, and we hope that you also enjoyed as much as we did. But I'd also just like to give you know, my last appreciation to the board of directors of MNS for having also supported us in planning this event and making sure that this event is a success. Mr. Ndlovu was also very hands-on in terms of making sure this event is a success. So we want to thank him, Mr. Sudumedi, for also ensuring that payments are done. For those that know Mr. Sudumedi, he's quite strict when it comes to the money. So thank you. This event is a success because of we make a light moment of it, but it's a success because of the support that they also provided us. So in their absence, and I'm sure wherever they're listening, we'd like to thank the whole board of directors, Mr. Ndlovu as well, for his leadership, for his constant strategy and guidance, as well as Mr. Sudumedi. Let's give them a round of applause. So I'd also want to take up the challenge regarding tangible outcomes in terms of this event. I'm not sure if we're going to call it an M&S stock file, but I think we definitely wanted to have an objective for this event, and I think part of it has been achieved. And it's even better to know that we want to have more of these events. We want to create more of these networks. So as M&S, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn because it hasn't yet been given the green light, but maybe that's where the pressure will come in. But as M&S, I think we will definitely ensure that we have more events like this. It's the first of its kind. But it's also an eye-opener for us that they are much needed. And they also help in terms of enabling us to all network, to grow, and to become the best we can. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for a beautiful event. And let's enjoy.
Trying to have the last word here, but you must speak after me so that I don't have the last word. Just to remind you, because you didn't say anything about it, the Stockfell needs a logo. So Zianda, Fezi, Wekanabo, you'll be working on one, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Enjoy, ladies. We're going to have lunch now. And there's also just a form of appreciation from M&S that you can please, on your way out, get as you leave. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you.